retired NYPD Sergeant Christopher Strom, outstanding person, outstanding individual, fellow Marine, Semper Fi. This is going to be an awesome show. Christopher Strom has a great book. I don't want to give all the details. I want him to give an opportunity to plug that.
You kind of went through your whole career there, and you had a wide array of experience. You went through patrol, you went through anti-crime, you go to street narcotics, then you go over the intelligence section. What makes you hang it up at that point? Like, when do you realize, like, all right, I've had a pretty good career. I could go further. I should leave. Like, what makes you hang it up, and then, like, what happens from there?
Well, to be honest with you, it's emotional when you leave. I didn't want to leave, but one of the things that was happening is because I would have daily interactions with the JTTF. So that would include the FBI, who I'm just going to say, honestly, I couldn't stand them. They were really abrasive people to work with. I'm sure not much has changed. I'm sure some has changed, but not much has changed. And the other reality, too, was you had people there that were assigned to the JTTF that were our guys and girls. And their whole attitude was pretty obnoxious and offensive. So I had, I worked at what they call the counterterrorism leads desk. So we would get a lead. It would come in either through an email or it would come through mail, any number of ways. It could be a phone call. It could be a live response. And we would take these jobs and we would go investigate them. So one of the things that was happening quite frequently was that we would get it, and 90% of the time it was just people's paranoia, but that was fine. You know what I mean? Like we understood that and we accepted that. So we would go out and do these investigations, and every once in a while, lo and behold, the crazy lady in Brooklyn that's got 5 cats and sits on her front stoop every day, she actually saw something that has a nexus to terrorism. So we would run these cases, we would do surveillance, and you'd be like a couple months into it, and the next thing you know, you get a phone call from the JTTF. So like, oh, we have a parallel investigation with one of the same subjects that's part of your investigation. So we're taking primacy, and we're taking over this case. And so, of course, there's not much you can do. And again, from a supervisory standpoint, I kind of expected that. I didn't like it. I'm not going to pretend, to you guys that I was fine with that. I was furious most of the time. But from a supervisor's position, when you have a detective that's really worked this case hard, and now they take the case down, and this jackass is sitting over here pretending like he ran this whole case for 6 months, meaning the FBI or one of his lackeys that are working for him. Meanwhile, the real detective that had the case is nowhere even on the stage, much less near the podium when this is being said. So I made that a long story, but I want people to understand that was my frustration. They paid me handsomely. I had over 1,500 hours of comp time before I left. In fact, the guy that was my deputy inspector that ran this particular unit, Vinny Mara, I bumped into him in the hallway and he said, we were going to put you in for SDS. So, but I had already put my papers in, and I was like, but everything works out. It's part of God's plan. You don't think it is, but it is. And it just worked out. But that is the reason why I was leaving. I was like, I'm leaving on a high note. People, respected me. I was well-liked, loved. I got the gold ring. I got the plaque. I got the big party at an Italian restaurant in Lower Manhattan. So everything was good. So I wasn't disgruntled. I wasn't unhappy, and people weren't unhappy with me. They knew I was a worker bee. They knew that if they gave me something, I was going to take care of it. It wasn't going to be like a half, baked type of investigation. It would be fully investigated.
Chris, before we go further to some questions, what year did you actually leave? What year did you retire?
My official retirement date was February of 2007.
2007. Okay. So I did hear you say not much has changed, but the overwhelming majority of the police department has changed vastly, especially in comparison to 2007. Right. Now, 2025. What you're seeing, it must be, astronomical, especially that you were working intel. So speaking about intel, we're talking about terrorism. What did you see as far as the approach to terrorism that's far different to what we see to domestic terrorism that's going on in LA and now moving into New York? What do you see as far as how the police operated in comparison to now?
Well, when I was in intel, we had this guy named Dave.
So now you retire, right? And I read your book. I read Brooklyn and Baghdad. Great book. So could you just tell everybody, like, where was your mind at that time, like, and what'd you wind up doing?
Well, it was one of these things where I had moved down to Virginia, and my plan was to do construction. I like construction. I still do things. Went and got out and got my A license to build homes and things like that. And I was involved in a partnership with some guy, and it didn't work out. It was one of these things where his work ethic and my work ethic were miles apart. And I thought I knew what he was like, but I was mistaken. So anyway, I had been applying for different jobs. I'm watching what's going on during the Iraq War. I'm watching these young soldiers being, blown up and incinerated, and then follow-on attacks and being shot. And I'm like, I'm getting frustrated and I'm getting angry. So I ended up applying for a couple of different jobs, and I get a call, and I'm literally in my basement painting on a ladder. And, if anyone's painted before and you're doing the cuts, you're like, do I really want to, I got paint on my hands. So I want to stop and take this phone call. Is it spam or whatever? Like, I've got some momentum. The paper's down, the tarps are down. I'm like, I just want to roll with this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I answer the phone, and it turns out it's this guy who's the program manager for MPRI L3 Communications. And he says, hey, I'm reading your resume. I'd like to talk to you for a minute. Do you have time? And I go, well, I said, yeah. I said, I sent out quite a few resumes, sir, so I'm not really familiar with your company. So he gave me the bare bones of what the job would entail. And he basically said, you'd be an advisor to a battalion commander. And in Iraq, is that something you'd be interested in? And I said, I'd like to discuss it with my wife, but it's something I'm definitely interested in. Of course, I knew my wife would say yes, because she knew this is the kind of stuff I like to do. And so I called him back, and from there, there's like, you're filling out paperwork, you're doing the SF-96 online. They want to know, everything about you and to get your security clearance approved. And then I end up going for a meeting in, it wasn't in Reston, it was Lansdowne, Virginia. And I'm there for like 2 weeks of orientation. And they're talking about Iraq, a lot of PowerPoints. We're actually working out and seeing people that have already been in theater and coming back and sharing their experiences. So they grabbed me and one other guy during the class, and they go, hey, the program manager wants to see you. So, my mind immediately goes to, I don't think this is going to be good. I think this could be like they found something in my background that they're not happy with, or whatever it is. I don't know. And the guy goes, relax. He goes, you're not in trouble. The program manager wants to talk to you, and he just wants to discuss something with you. So we go in there. They closed the door, and they basically described the job that what I was previously going to be doing was as an advisor. They basically said, you'll be part of a very small team that will go out and do captures, and your job will be to do interrogations at the point of capture. Is that something you'd be interested in? And I'm like, yeah, 100%. Sign me up for that. Sign me up for that. Because now, instead of, it's almost like being at one police plaza. Yeah, you're an advisor, but you're not with the guys. You're not in the field. You're not seeing these people, and you have to understand, these are people that are killing soldiers. These are bomb makers. These are serious bad people. And I was like, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to do this. I want to do this. I want to see if I can, make a difference, as opposed to just kind of being a behind the scenes person in Iraq, doing the job that they described. So that's kind of like how that all evolved. And then from there, I went to months of training. I went to explosive school. I went to Aberdeen, Maryland, where we blew things up and did what they call post-blast assessment, learned how to reconstruct things, chemical testing, you name it. And then we're out in the field. And now I'm working with another group of people in Roswell, New Mexico, and they're all special forces guys. And of course, I'm just a lowly Marine and a cop from New York. I mean, what do you bring to the table? I'm a door kicker. I'm a pipe hitter. You know what I mean? That kind of an attitude. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I mean, have you ever conducted an interview? Have you ever written an interrogation report? And they're like, no. I go, oh, okay. Well, that's kind of like what I do. I don't know, So the initial, we eventually get done with all of this training, and we finally get in country. And the leadership initially, and John, from reading the book, was horrible. We had a tough time ingratiating ourselves with Big Army, and nobody really wanted to work with us. And I'm after like 6 months, I'm saying to myself, I don't know. I don't know if I could do this for another 6 months, because it wasn't about money anymore. It was just feeling like this is stupid. Like I'm not doing anything here, anything productive, you know. And the guy, like I said, that was originally managing the team, he was horrible. He had no communication skills, and he was saying things that when he would have a meeting in front of the JAG and make a proposal about how we want to do a targeting, he was making him feel uneasy. You know, where they looked at us like cowboys, like we're just going to go out there and cause more problems for the brigade commander, you know, which was nothing could be further from the truth. But that was his opinion of him based upon the salesmanship of the guy that was running the team initially.
You know, it's interesting to me because I deployed to Iraq in January 2003, and it was so primitive at the time. All we had was tents. You know, we were in the middle of nowhere setting up. I spent most of my time in Basra, and I know you made it to Baghdad. It's a great story. You know, there was a contract. I want to thank you also for being there. A lot had changed from 2003 to, so you went about 2008, am I correct?
2008 to 2009.
Yeah.
So I had 15 months in theater.
Yeah, a lot changed from 2003 to 2008 as things started to develop. That's great. So, what types of and I it's interesting because I was talking about this with John, right? It felt like, even though, you know, when I was in Iraq, at times it was kind of like this is war, but it also felt like a police action, right? We didn't know who was who. There were certain checkpoints and try to determine why you're there and who to talk to and who to trust. So, what types of things did you see on the ground that were kind of relative to policing? Because, you know, I always talk about this, how serving Iraq was in some ways almost like being a cop overseas. So what type of things did you see on the ground? What were your experiences?
Well, our focus was counter ID. So we counter improvised explosive device. And the unit that was our overwatch was JIADO, which was the Joint Improvised Explosive Defeat Device Organization. I may have misspoke. It's a jumbled, but basically they looked at it like, hey, we need to stay left of boom. We're not left of boom anymore. We're right of boom. And they had approached the problem that way for many years. So it's true what you're saying, Eric. They looked at it like it should be a police matter. We need to get the drugs before they sell the drugs. Here we need to get the bomb makers, the facilitators, the emplacers before it actually happens. So we went from having an IED event in our theater of operation, in our AO, at least once a day, sometimes twice a day. I mean, the reality too was the small arms fire and the death by some sniper round, that was going away. That really wasn't happening anymore. The majority of the people being killed, as you say, when I got there, John, in 2008, was by IEDs and car bombs and VBIDs and all these other things. So how do you fix this problem? Well, we had a guy named Matt Bacino, who my book is in memory of, and he was in what they call an 18 Fox from the Special Forces community. He was a Green Beret, and he was on loan to us, and he did the targeting. So we went from doing one mission a month to just sitting around on our hands to we were doing a mission every day. It was mentally and physically exhausting, the op tempo. And we would find these people, and then what happens is, and I'll just give a broad brush example. We'd find somebody. The guy would go active. He'd be on his cell phone. We'd be tracking him. I'm not going to get involved in the sophistication, but we had national assets. We had local assets in terms of ISR and electronic communications and things like that. And we would fix the location, find it, and then the team that I was with, this 122 TST, which was run by Sergeant Dave Peluso, they would action it, they would breach, and then I go in there, and now there's 6 people in the house, 3 or 4 females, 2 or 3 guys, and the guy that I'm looking at from the targeting package is a silhouette, is a nickname. You know, it's not like these people are completely unsophisticated. They don't use their real name. So now how do I figure out who is the bad guy and who is not the bad guy? Or are they all bad guys? I don't really know until you start, talking to these people. And so that's where the rubber met the road. I would, generally speaking, probably 95% of the time, my interviews and interrogations took place in a bathroom with this person. And based upon what this person would tell me, you would look at certain verbal cues. You would look at certain behavioral aspects of this person. And if this person sometimes would have formal resistance training. So you were aware of that. So, it was one of these things where I may not be the smartest person in the room, but I'm smart enough to know that. And I don't know what this person knows, but I need to find out. So while this is going on contemporaneously, I would get a knock on the door, and they knew if I was doing an interrogation, don't bother me because it'll break the whole chain and momentum. And they'd go, Chris, and they would bring me in something, and it would be bomb material related. So it might be a ledger that shows accounting for materials. It might show some pieces of equipment like what you see right there that are definitely used in bomb making. And so it would just be like a psychological collapse of this person. Yeah, you lie. And I'm like, just like it was in the NYPD. I'm like, I don't know. How did this get in your house? You know what I mean? Like logic traps and things like that. And then, eventually you'd wear this person out. And the person would say, okay. And you'd say, I know you're not really a bad guy. Tell me who the real bad guy is. And now, did that work all the time? No, it didn't work all the time. But I've gone to as many as 4 different targets in one operation, based upon what people told me at the first operation. So before that, if you went out with the Army, you had a 21-year-old lieutenant, and this is his first rodeo in country. You have a guy that went to Fort Huachuca who learned how to be an interrogator. He's 21 years old too, okay? And he's going in here like he's going to save the day, and he's going to crack this guy open. Well, culturally, if this guy is like in his 40s and you're 21, that's a no-go right from the start. That's not going to help you, number one. So, and number two, you can't expect somebody that's 21 years old to have the experience that you and I, John and yourself, Eric, have after 20 some odd years in the NYPD. It's just not possible. It's not possible, and it's unrealistic. So using that example, they would go out, and if they thought the guy was a bad guy, but the lieutenant who is the ground assault commander wasn't satisfied, they would walk away with their tail behind their legs. They were like, I'm not taking this guy because I'm not convinced, meaning the lieutenant, that this guy is who it is. That changed with our unit, with the Phoenix team, because now it's like we built this relationship of trust, and the hit potential was so great that if I said to Dave, who was running the team, the actual green suiters, I said, this guy says he can take me to the actual bomb maker. He's just a financier guy. He's low hanging fruit. He goes, let's go. And we would fix the location. We'd go there and hit pay dirt each time. So like we've all experienced doing a search warrant where you get a dry hole. Like that happens. Even in Iraq, that happened. I'm not going to sit here and say everything was fairy dust and we got pay dirt every time. No, but I would say 80% of the time we got the bad guy, and we got something material to tie it to this bad guy. And it was incredible. The adrenaline rush is so, and then the dump, of course, is so incredible that, you'd be on a 24-hour, 32-hour burn, just trying to get all the process. I did all the evidence processing. I did all the interrogation reports, and I'm 48 years of age when this is all going on. So it's like, but like I said, getting back to the adrenaline, it made it easy because you felt like you were doing something. You felt like, okay, I'm not solving the world problems, but I'm solving this retard is not going to kill another soldier with a bomb. He is not, because he's going away now. Okay. So he's out of play.
Wow. So how many of these raids would you say, or like warrants, I guess we could call them, raids? How many of them did you go on in your, I think you said 15 months? Like how many were like, what was a frequent week for you guys?
Well, I did 110 combat missions. Wow. So that give you an idea. The team collectively rounded up 91 high-value targets, Tier 1 and Tier 2. So for your audience's benefit, I know Eric knows this, maybe you do as well, John. A Tier 1 is like a special forces operation. So you're talking about a SEAL team, you're talking about a Green Beret or a composite of the two going out to get these people. So, and here's the crazy thing. You go out there and you grab this guy, right? Serious bad guy, bomb maker, explosives, no question about it. Creating all kinds of mayhem. All of a sudden, I'd be dropping him off at the detention facility. I worked out of Fob Falcon. So we were about like 12 miles south of Victory Base in Baghdad proper and Baghdad International Airport. And all of a sudden, I'd hear the Black Hawk coming in. And then you see the guys all Gucci'd out, like, hey, can you tell me where the detention facility is? I'm like, oh, yeah, it's right down there. Who are they coming? The guy that you just rolled up for them. So not only was that happening with a great degree of frequency, but it was creating problems, unintended consequences and problems, because the colonel that's running the special forces team is saying, I don't understand, if this guy was on the plate and on deck and for actioning, why is it that these group of old men and some guy from New York is going out and grabbing our targets? Like, why is this happening? And again, it wasn't by design. There also is obviously deconfliction in the TOC about the Tactical Operations Center about what targets we're going to put. And then, it's almost like when you had to do the decks, you had to put out the location of where you're going to do and who you're going to action and things like that. So they were aware of it. And then it got to the point, this is like something out of a movie. We would grab the guy. They were aware that we were going to grab the guy, and we would meet them so at another location, and we would get the grid cords. And now we're doing an actual handoff, almost like a warrant squad. Like, hey, thanks, we appreciate what you guys did. You know what I mean? So that became a very frequent occurrence. And again, I'm just a guy from New York doing my part. All that other static has nothing to do with me. Has really, really nothing to do with me. But I can tell you, if you're a colonel in that unit, it's very unnerving that that's happening at a brigade level. Actually, at a battalion level, that this is happening. And but of course, the colonel that we're serving at the brigade level, he's loving it because he's looking like a superstar. So his focus is elimination of IEDs and getting his Silver Eagle turned into a Silver Star for promotion to general. That's what his focus is.
You've just watched a clip from our live episode. Click the description to watch the full episode. Like, share, and subscribe for more videos just like this.